Football history is filled with incredible goals, but every once in a while, a moment happens that makes the entire world stop and ask a simple question: impossible. One of those moments happened on June 3, 1997, during a match between the Brazil national football team and the France national football team in the Tournoi de France, 1997. On that night, at the Stade de Gerland in Lyon, something happened that would later be studied not only by football fans, but also by scientists and physicists. The moment came from the left foot of a Brazilian defender who was already famous for his explosive speed and powerful shots, Roberto Carlos. During the match, Brazil earned a free kick from a distance that most players would never even consider shooting from. The ball was placed around 35 meters away from the goal. At that distance, most players usually choose to cross the ball into the penalty area, hoping a teammate can head it into the net. But Roberto Carlos was not like most players. Known for his incredible leg power and fearless playing style, he stepped back slowly from the ball, preparing for something unusual. The stadium crowd watched closely as he measured his run-up. What made it even more interesting was how far he stepped back, almost 10 long steps away from the ball, standing at a strange angle. The French players quickly formed a defensive wall, while their goalkeeper, Fabien Barthez, carefully positioned himself in front of the goal. Everything looked normal. Nothing about the situation seemed extraordinary. But the next few seconds would create one of the most famous goals in football history. Roberto Carlos began his run-up, approaching the ball not straight on, but from the side at a sharp angle. As he reached the ball, he swung his powerful left leg and struck it with the outside of his foot. The sound of the kick echoed through the stadium as the ball exploded off his boot like a rocket. Immediately, the ball started traveling toward the right side of the field, far away from the goal. In fact, it looked so wide that many people in the stadium believed the shot had completely missed. The ball boy standing behind the goal even moved slightly, expecting the ball to fly out of play. But then something unbelievable began to happen. As the ball traveled through the air, it started to curve. At first, the change was small and almost unnoticeable, but within seconds, the curve became dramatic. The ball began bending sharply back toward the goal, swinging around the defensive wall in a way that looked almost unnatural. The players in the wall watched in shock as the ball passed them, and goalkeeper Fabien Barthez remained frozen because the ball's path had completely fooled him. By the time he realized the ball was heading toward the net, it was already too late. The ball smashed into the goal with incredible speed, and the stadium erupted in disbelief. Players from both teams stood stunned, trying to understand what they had just seen. Even the commentators struggled to explain the goal because the ball's trajectory looked almost impossible. From the camera angle, the shot appeared to start nearly 3 meters outside the goalpost before suddenly curving back inside. The path of the ball looked like a giant banana shape in the air, which is why many people later started calling it the banana free kick. But the real mystery was not just how beautiful the goal looked. The real question was how such a dramatic curve was even physically possible. Years later, scientists began studying the goal in detail. Physicists analyzed video footage, measured the speed of the ball, and calculated the angle of the kick. Their research eventually pointed to a scientific principle known as the Magnus effect. This effect happens when a spinning object moves through the air. When a ball spins rapidly, it changes the airflow around it. Air moves faster on one side of the ball and slower on the other side, creating a difference in air pressure. This pressure difference pushes the ball sideways, causing it to curve through the air. The Magnus effect is the same principle that explains curveballs in baseball, spin shots in tennis, and swinging deliveries in cricket. However, Roberto Carlos's free kick was special because it combined several extreme factors at the same time. First, the ball was struck with enormous power. Researchers later estimated the ball's speed at around 137 kilometers per hour. Second, the ball was spinning extremely fast because Carlos struck it with the outside of his foot. Third, the distance of the shot gave the ball enough time in the air for the curve to fully develop. At the beginning of the shot, the ball traveled mostly straight, which is why everyone thought it would miss. But as the spin interacted with the air over time, the curve became stronger and stronger until the ball dramatically bent back toward the goal.